don't know. I know I don't even know what you're talking about.
All right, guys, let's get started here. We are just a couple minutes after, actually 7 minutes after 1 o'clock, so I apologize for the delay. Just seeing we get a couple more people joining the call, so thank you very much for being on today. I was actually kind of going through some of the presentations and stuff that I had done in the past, and I came across this one, which was one that I really enjoyed giving a while back. So just bear with me just a little bit. I'm going to bring up my screen. Can everybody see my screen okay, those that are on? Just say yes if you can, so I know it's at least one person can see it.
Yes.
That's one. That's all I needed to hear. So if you're not seeing my screen, you can drop me a text or something real quick. Maybe we can help you. Or Aaron's on the call as well. Feel free to drop her a message. But anyways, it's good to have you guys here. The year is getting started out. It is now the 7th of January. And I hope that everybody, it was an interesting holiday season. It's always nice when a holiday falls in the middle of the week, but with the sales job, it's guaranteed to screw up your week. When you got Christmas on a Wednesday, Christmas Eve on a Tuesday, the day after Christmas on a Thursday, that's 3 days that are probably pretty much guaranteed to be pretty unproductive. So I certainly understand. And we kind of experienced the same thing last week with New Year's Eve on Tuesday and New Year's Day on a Wednesday. And so we had a difficult couple of weeks, but at the same time, we finished off the month strong. And I think a lot of that was just because we had the momentum going into December. And hopefully we've got that same momentum as we carry into the new year. So one of the things that I was really thinking about, and as we're kind of getting feedback and trying to get things started for the new year, is just our mindset and how we can really stay focused and stay positive and stay motivated, and to try to do that on a consistent basis. And so when I came across this presentation that I'd given a while back, I thought that might just be a great place to start. So we're going to get into a little bit about mindset, but about goal setting and things like that. But with those that are on the call, is there anybody that's on the call that has kind of just started out the year with a goal or a mindset, or that you're doing anything specific to really to stay positive? It's not always easy to do. So if anyone's got anything to share, I'd love to hear what you're doing just to kind of get yourself in the right mindset for the new year. What have you done so far?
Yeah, Wes, I can share something. It's Joseph.
Hey, Joseph. Welcome to the call.
Hey, good. I just want to share for the new year. Obviously, setting targets is very important. What's helping me is sticking to a set schedule. So every morning I have a set time I wake up, and I think it's very important to do something like physically active to get the mind right. I really believe in like positive affirmations and visualization, so that helps too. And when you visualize, I visualize the day, whether I have appointments or myself making calls, whatever I'm going to do that day. And my schedule, my prospecting time is 9 to 12, and then I take the 12 to 1 or 12 to 2 off, like lunch, or like I'll just touch up on the industry because I'm fairly new, just to do something productive. And then from 3 to 7, I'll continue calling. And so that's going to be my schedule for the new year. So far, it's been working. So
Sweet.
I think sticking to a schedule helps a lot, just to help you stay on track. And say if you find yourself kind of getting distracted here and there, just sticking to that schedule can always put you back on track.
Absolutely. I think that's a great way to do it. I kind of did something similar for this year as I sat down and wrote down some of my goals last week, but I kind of designed what I would refer to as my perfect week. So it's the perfect week, and obviously perfection is impossible. But if I could have a perfect week, this is what it would look like, and actually scheduling out exactly as you said, time for exercise, time for phone calls, scheduling your family time, the things that you're going to do Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It might seem a little bit ridiculous to some if you've never done something like that, but it's amazing how much more you can get done and you can get accomplished if you just have a schedule. But I think getting your heart rate up and getting some energy going early in the morning with that what they call the left-right movement, whether that's just taking a walk or whatever, is a great way to start your day. Not only that, but you could look at just about anything out there, find an article on mental strength and staying positive, fighting depression and anxiety and things like that. Almost on every one of those lists, top 1 or 2 items is left-right movement. Get out and take a walk. Absolutely, those are some great things, and it gives you a place to kind of get your mind set straight. The hardest days that I have, and I've had plenty, is when I get up, a half an hour before I have to leave the house. So I'm kind of scatterbrained leaving the house, and then I walk through the door and I'm already a little bit behind. It seems like I'm behind the entire day. So just getting up 15 or 20 minutes earlier can make all the difference in your day without a doubt. So anyways, great thoughts. Is there anybody else that's doing anything that is helping them get the year started off right? All right, let's jump. So one of the things that I like, and this is going to be pretty familiar to everyone, but I think this is kind of one of those affirmations that Joseph was talking to, but it's the Serenity Prayer, which is God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. A lot of us, if you're in a sales job, there are a lot of things that are frustrating, discouraging, upsetting, but there's a lot of those things are things that you can't change. And to be able to just have that wisdom to be able to say, this is frustrating, but it's not anything I have control over, and then move to the things you do have control of, that's going to make all the difference in the world. So you obviously can't really change if somebody no-shows, but can you improve some things maybe to increase your appointment retention? You absolutely can. But there are a lot of things, especially when we're working in a funeral home. We've got lots of personalities. You've got some funeral directors that might be more difficult to work with than others, environments that you just don't have control over, but you do have, there's a lot that you can control. And so really kind of focusing and understanding and where you put your emotional energy is so vitally important here, that the things that you're complaining about, are they things that you have control over? And if they're not, then I wouldn't spend a lot of emotional energy focusing on those things, because there's so much in this business that we can control, that to put any energy into things that we can't control is just sucking it out of you. So just, as you think about that, I've always liked the Serenity Prayer, in the understanding the things that I can't change, the things I can, and most importantly, the wisdom to know the difference. Be really careful about where you're spending your emotional energy and how you're handling those things, because there are days that things happen that we don't have control over, that can seriously set us back. And that's a choice. That is a choice that we have. Are we going to let this be a setback? Or are we going to move on? Are we going to learn from it? When something bad happens, are we asking questions like, why did this happen to me? Or are we asking questions like, what do I have to learn from what just occurred? Because every challenge, every trial, every struggle that we have, we can be a victim, or we can be a victor over that challenge, just simply by the way we address things and we ask questions to ourselves. So just know what you have control over. Here are some things that we can control and change. We obviously have control and can change our attitude. There is no doubt whatsoever that we can get up during the day and decide whether we're going to have a good day or a bad day, regardless of what happens. If we're going to choose to have a good day, we get up early, we get our mind in the right place, and that's great. Sometimes, as an example, this morning, I leave my neighborhood. In my neighborhood, there's a school zone. And guess what West was doing in the school zone this morning? He was driving a little fast, and I got pulled over. So when you start your day and you get pulled over, I mean, quite honestly, for a lot of people, that's going to completely ruin their day. When the cop approached my car, I was nice, I was kind, I told him good morning when he approached the car, and he said, you're going 20 29 in a 20-mile-an-hour speed zone. You know, ask drivers, drive license, registration, all that kind of stuff. And I don't know if it made a difference, but you know, I was in a good mood when he came to the car, and I said, you know, hey, I'm usually paying attention here. It's right by my house. I drive this road every single day. I was kind of spacing off this morning. I'm sorry. I gave him my stuff. He came back and he gave me a warning, which I was very, very grateful for, instead of a ticket. If anyone knows me at all, I am a ticket magnet. So the fact that I got a warning today was a tender mercy for sure. So, and then how we react or respond to life's challenges. This is something that was shared with me a long time ago, and it's always stuck with me quite a bit. But if you were to go to a doctor, let's say that I'm not feeling very well. I've been getting migraine headaches. I'm not feeling well at all. I go to the doctor and he gives me some medication, and when I take that medication, and I take it, and within an hour, my face is broken out. I'm in hives. And I go back to my doctor that same day, and I'm like, man, I don't know what I did, but something's not right. The doctor would say that your body is reacting to the medication. So reaction, or something that when we react to something, it's typically a negative response. But if I go back in a week and he says, how did everything go? And I say, my migraines are gone, I'm feeling much better, the doctor is going to say your body is responding to the medication. So as things come up, as challenges arrive, we have to make the decision: are we going to react to things, which is often negative, or are we going to respond to things, which is really kind of stepping back, looking at the big picture, you know, understanding that maybe the person we're dealing with that day has got something going on in their life that we're not aware of that's making them a little bit grumpy or whatever. But just understanding that we have a choice to react or respond to the situations that are coming at us. There are many external forces that we can't control or change. However, we can control how we respond to those challenges. So I was kind of thinking about just different things that we hear, but there's a lot of excuses that we use when things aren't going very well. That, you know, I don't have enough good leads. Nobody's answering the telephone. Joseph kind of touched on this just a little bit, and I think that it's extremely important. But as I've studied, and I do this for myself, if you're ever in a funk, I hope you have a way to get out of it. One of my favorite things to do when I find myself in an emotional or professional funk, or in a cell slump or whatever it might be, is I read. Sometimes I'll jump online, I'll look for an article. Motivation is something that doesn't last. You can't just go to a seminar once and expect for it to last the rest of your life. It's like taking a shower, right? You can't take a shower once for the whole month. You have to take a shower every day for it to have an impact. Well, I believe that motivation is the exact same way. So here's the things that that are very important to stay motivated. The first one that's very important is to begin your day in pursuit of written goals. You guys have every single day. I've seen all kinds of different things in salespeople. I've been doing this for more than 20 years. I mean, I had a guy that was as simple as could be. He just had a sheet of paper that was at his desk. It was handwritten with a Sharpie, and he had horrible handwriting. And all it said was set 2 appointments every day, no matter what. That is beginning his day with a pursuit of a written goal. It was literally, and it was stuck on his desk all the time. It just simply said, set 2 appointments every day, no matter what is going on. And very consistently, he could hit that goal. But going in and starting your day with a written goal is extremely important. You might have, I wouldn't overcomplicate it. There's 1, 2, maybe 3 things at the very most that you're going to do every single day when you're at work that are going to help you stay focused on the things that are most important. This is also very important. Surround yourself with positive, optimistic people. If you guys got any negative Nancys in your life, and I'm sure you probably work with some, just be aware that you don't have to put a lot of energy into that. I like what Tony Robbins has always said. He's like, stop talking to people that are more screwed up than you are. And sometimes we kind of find ourselves in that environment where there's a lot of negativity talk going on. People are grumbling, they're complaining. You don't need to try to change them. You don't need to be rude and tell them to get their head on straight or they're going to lose their mind. But you can simply remove yourself from a negative situation and do your best to surround yourself with positive and optimistic people. You guys, you've heard us talk about this a lot. I just mentioned it before, but read books, articles about people who achieved great success in the worst of times. I just finished yesterday the book 127 Hours, or also known as Between a Rock and a Hard Place. I'm not sure if any of you have seen the movie about it. Aron Ralston, who was hiking in Canyonlands National Park and was traversing a slot canyon, and during that traverse, he grabbed onto a large boulder, and that boulder came loose. And when he made it to the bottom of that slot canyon, that boulder trapped his arm against the wall of the canyon. It's a phenomenal book about the choices that he had to make, but he was stuck in that canyon for 6 days, 5 nights, with his arm attached. Basically, it was stuck, and he tried everything he could with all the know-how that he had. And eventually, if you haven't seen the movie, I encourage you to watch it. It's very inspirational. But at the end of the day, at the end of that 6-day span, he was going through everything that he could do to try to figure it out, until the last option that he had to be able to free himself and live was to cut his arm off. And that was the only thing that was going to free him from that situation. But he only had with him a doll, because he was trying to chip away at the rock. He had a doll Leatherman tool. And it's a true story. It's a phenomenal story. But he eventually figured out that he needed to cut his arm off, which started, he didn't have anything that he could get through the bone of his arm. And so he decided that the first thing he needed to do was to actually apply enough leverage to be able to break the bones of his arm between the rock and the wall. So he bent his arm as far as he could, and one bone snapped at a time. And then he continued to remove the rest of his arm with a dull pocket knife. Now, visualizing that probably makes all of us squirm, but there's just some great motivational things in that book where he had to decide whether he was going to die. That was one choice. He was going to die, or he was going to live. And to live, really what he said was, how important is it for you to live? And if it's important enough, then you're willing to do whatever it takes to make that happen. And it gets into all kinds of great stuff about the decision that he had to make to survive, with preserving the little bit of water that he had, preserving the little bit of food that he had, and making it last, and doing everything that he could until he figured out, which he was really frustrated. He's like, why didn't I just think that all I needed to do was break my arm the first day? It took him 6 days to figure that out after trying a million different things, but he never gave up. And his life now, even without that arm is better than he could have ever imagined. He still does all the same things. He's a motivational speaker. Gets $25,000 to speak, but he had a choice. He could have just died there, but instead he did what he needed to do. So I love stories like that. And that's why I mentioned that one. But when you read articles and books about people who have experienced worse things than I could personally ever imagine, and they've achieved great success because of that, they're always motivational for me personally. So look for those opportunities. But if you haven't ever read that one or watched the movie is fantastic. I would encourage you to watch that, because it gives you a different insight on the way to think. And even during that time, he went through ups and downs of just giving up to seeing, because he was started to hallucinate because he was so dehydrated, but saw his family and realized that it was important for him to live, and would do whatever he needed to do to get there. So don't just let anything become your excuse. Sometimes instead of looking for ways to get things done, we look for excuses to not get them done. I've had a lousy calling day. Nobody's answering the phone. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm just going to, I just need to start fresh tomorrow. Today's been a lousy day, so we leave the office at 3 o'clock. Just stick with it, and you'll be amazed that having that attitude of it's the next one, it's the next one, it's the next one, it's the next call, can make all the difference in the world. That, again, set 2 appointments a day no matter what. However many calls that takes, whatever you've got to do, you just get it done. This is a big one for us, but focusing when we're talking with families, remember that we focus on what our program does, not what it is. in your own mind and the way you think about things, what does the job, the career, the profession that we've chosen, it's the why behind it. It's not the what, it's not the how. It's the why that motivates us. It's the why that motivates families that work with us. Why do families meet with you? Why have you chosen this? Because you're trying to alleviate them from a difficult emotional and financial problem on the worst day of their life. So really, in your mind, as you're doing that and you're making those calls and somebody maybe rips you a new one on the phone, again, who knows what kind of day they're having, and maybe something happened in their day that made them respond to you, react, we'll say, to you a negative way. If you stay focused on really that it doesn't matter what people say, because you know what you're sharing, the story you have is of greater importance than anything else, then just get your mind in the right place and focus on what the program does, not what it is. You don't sell funeral plans. Get that out of your head. You don't sell insurance. That's what it is. You help families make a decision so that as to alleviate that burden from their family when a death occurs. If you stay focused on that, it's going to help you stay motivated throughout your day. Staying positive, don't let yourself get caught up in whining about the stuff. It could be sales, prices, economy, staff, owner change. We've talked about that. Things are going to happen. No matter where you work, there is negativity, and there are changes, and there are things going on. And the less you let those things affect you and just stay positive and push through, the more effective you're going to be. Focus on the value of what you do over the price. We talked about this in training before, where you walk in every presentation with a little V and a large P, which V represents value and P represents price. And every step that you follow in the sales process builds the V. Asking the 10 questions, going through the personal wishes organizer, following your script when it comes to the closing. All of those things are going to build the V. If you take shortcuts, a good example that I see a lot of times with this is with families who walk through the door and they're what we call walk-in or call-in or whatever. We think they're ready to buy. Within 5 minutes of the conversation, we have the general price list out. We're doing a cost estimate. And then at the end of that, they say, thank you so much for the information. We'll let you know what we want to do. That we're going to price before we build the value. Asking those 10 powerful questions is going to make all the difference in the world to build the value. You ask those open-ended questions to get them to talk about the type of experience they want for their children to have when they pass away, the type of experience they want for their spouse to have. Get them emotionally involved in the conversation, and you're going to build value. And then you have less objections when you come to the closing sequence where you're actually asking for the finances. So don't take shortcuts, because when you take shortcuts, oftentimes when you do that, you don't build the V large enough. It's not bigger than the P, and you can't close that sale. So don't go in there and give a commercial about your funeral home. We've been in business for 100 years. We're amazing. We've got these beautiful Cadillac hearses, and our staff is awesome. That's not important to the families that you work with. Ask questions, figure out what's important to them, and you will continue to be successful. This was actually, I think I've sent this out before, but years ago, a gentleman by the name of Albert Gray, he was in the life insurance industry, and he was charged with from his managers to put together what they called the common denominator of success. And it's really important that we understand what that is. But it says here, sometimes even our best producers get into a slump. When a person goes into a slump, it simply means he or she has reached a point at which, for the time being, the things he or she doesn't like to do have become more important than the reasons for doing them. So we'll look at prospecting, asking for referrals, following a closing script. Some of those things are very difficult to stick with, to follow through on, to do on a consistent basis. But because we don't like to do them, it becomes more important than our reasons for doing them. So really kind of think about that. And if there's things that you don't like to do, is that more important than your reasons for doing them? Some of the reasons for doing them. What would be some of the reasons why we do difficult things in this industry? I'm sending this out to you guys. Does anybody like the prospect?
No.
No. Yeah, thank you for your honesty. Right? Now there are people on this call that are like, I love prospecting. I I don't know that that's necessarily even completely true, but they've said it enough times that they know that it's the means to be able to get the results that they want. So they've come to understand that it's just part of the job. And if I don't do it, I'm not going to get the results that I want. And then here's a reminder for us as managers, as leaders in the industry. And may I pause to suggest to you, sales managers, general managers, and owners, that when one of your good producers goes into a slump, the less you talk about production and the more you talk about purpose, the sooner you will pull that person out of the slump. So that's talking directly to us, that it's, again, getting back to the why of what we do and why you're in this career. And maybe it is to make an income, to have a above average lifestyle. That's a motivator. That's a why. But all of those things should be more important than the things that you don't like to do to be able to find that success. So really, we're going to let those excuses get in the way of sharing our story with families and fulfilling our purpose. The rejection, the setbacks, the no-shows, the people who said they're going to buy and they don't. Don't put energy into those negative things. Just keep on doing what you're doing, and good things will continue to happen. Everyone's heard this one before, right? The definition of insanity: when we continue to do the same things while expecting a different result. How many times do we find ourselves in that situation where we're frustrated, we're discouraged, but we're not willing to change something to be able to get a better result? We're not willing to take advice. We're not willing to take constructive criticism. We complain that, we're maybe not getting the closing rate that we want, or we have more and more people telling us that they need to think about it. There are answers to all of those things, but we want a different result, but we're not willing to make the changes necessary to get that result. And it can drive us virtually insane when we're not willing to change things to get a different result. So you have to be willing to make those changes. Don't get yourself in the place where you're just find yourselves insane. And again, back to the resources that are available to answer your life's challenges. If you're struggling with any topic in the sales industry, you don't have to spend $1 anymore. Back when I started over 20 years ago, we didn't have these resources available. A lot of salespeople didn't. You actually had to go to a library and get a book. You had to go to Barnes & Noble to buy a book. You can now, any day of the week, you're struggling with anything. That, you know what, my attitude sucks. Well, when I put this presentation together, when I Google search positive attitude, it generated me 7,700,000 articles that I could read on that subject. If feel like I'm selling in a tough economy, things are hard. You're in an economy where the unemployment rate's high and all these things. Selling in a tough economy generated 754,000 results. Staying motivated, 995,000 results. Setting goals, 4,180,000 results. If you're struggling, if it's closing, I could put in closing right now. I'm not going to do this to break away from the presentation, but I could put in how to be a better closer. There'd be millions of articles for me to read. How to ask for referrals more effectively. Millions of articles to read. There is not a shortage of answers for your guys' challenges that you're experiencing. Not only that, but you have a team of people that are here to help you as well. So don't get stuck. Don't get frustrated. Don't get discouraged. It's only finding one thing that can help you be a little bit better at what you do. So instead of jumping on Facebook or, doing whatever it is that you do with your downtime, you got some time during lunch and you're eating your sandwich and you just need to clear your head just a little bit. Spend time doing things like this and looking for articles that are going to make you more effective at what you do. I mean, I'm constantly looking at things on leadership and motivation and how to get out of a sales slump. Those are all things that I don't know that I've ever come up with a genuine idea in my life, because I don't have to, because there's people that are much smarter, more successful than me that have been down that road, that all I've got to do is tap into their brain and all of my answers are there, and I got to decide what's going to work for me. So take time to study, to read. Most of these articles are a page or two long. It takes you 5 or 10 minutes. And if you did this on a daily basis, you'd be amazed at the knowledge that you would possess in topics that are sales related, life related, motivation related, that people who have been where you're at, and probably people who have been in way worse scenarios than you've ever been in, that have gotten out of them, and then they write about them and they share those experiences with other people. It's really important to understand too, from a sales perspective, that there's no such thing as just being stable or being still. You're either progressing or you're backsliding. Another quote I've always liked, that if you're coasting, that means you're going downhill. But keep in mind that if you let off the throttle at any time, you're no longer moving ahead. You're now backsliding. The best way I can probably give you a visual on this is that I'm sure we've all done this before. I do it with my kids all the time. We're at the mall or whatever, and there's an escalator, right? And that escalator is coming down at you. And you decide you're going to run up the escalator that's coming down. Well, if you just step on the escalator and just walk at a normal pace, you're going to stay right where you're at. So that's if you're, okay, I just want to stay where I'm at. That means you have to walk to stay there. If you stop walking at any time, you're back to the bottom of the escalator. To get to the top of the escalator, you have to run faster than the escalator is moving. So if you think of that from a sales perspective, prospecting, closing, referrals, all of those things, if you stop doing any of that stuff, you're going to end up back at the bottom of the escalator. You're going to end up starting from scratch. If you just maintain the pace that you've always done, you're going to stay right where you're at. But if you pick up the pace just a little bit, if your weekly appointment goal is to have 5 appointments every week, and you say, you know what, I'm just going to increase that to 6 appointments, pick up your pace just a little teeny bit, you're going to make it to the top. If you stop for a week and don't set any appointments, you're now starting from scratch again. So you got to keep moving to stay where you're at. You can't stop. But if you want to do better than you've ever been before, if you want to get to the top, you have to be willing to go a little faster, a little harder, a little stronger to get there. So we got to seek out those answers to our challenges. Focus on continuing education for yourself. Don't rely on the people around it to give it to you, because you can empower yourself to find the tools that you need to be extremely successful. So I mean, think about this just for a second. We are in a profession. We are a professional. If you went and saw a doctor and you're trying to figure out the doctor you wanted for your family, and he told you, I graduated from medical school 20 years ago and I haven't picked up a medical book since, how confident would you be in that person's performance? That's obviously a rhetorical question, but you wouldn't be confident. That's his profession. Your profession is in sales. You're a sales professional. If the only training you ever had was the 3 or 4 or 5 days of training that we put you through in the beginning, and you haven't done anything else to improve what you do on a daily basis, then you're really not a professional. There are other jobs, and I'm not saying this to be patronizing or anything like that, but if you want to flip burgers, you can go and do that for a small amount of money. The job's very simple. There's not much requirement. It's when, put the burger on this side for 4 minutes and flip it and put it on this side for 4 minutes and put it in a bun. That doesn't require a whole lot of additional training, and you're not really a burger cook professional. You've got a job that pays you an hourly wage to do a specific task. In this industry, as a sales professional, we have to continue to educate ourselves. So you're either moving ahead, you're growing, or you're not, you're backsliding. There's really no such thing as standing still. You have to keep moving a little bit, or move a little bit more than what you have to be able to get greater results. Take a drink of my water here. So here's some things that we can do to kind of wrap things up just a little bit. How to have a positive attitude in 7 simple steps. Number 1, take passionate action towards living your life. Make changes, take action, be passionate about what you do. You're going to act instead of react. You're going to learn from what's going on around you. You believe that each moment is perfect regardless of the outcome. This is one thing that I've interestingly enough tried to teach my children quite a bit, is that sometimes we do things expecting a certain outcome. Maybe you had a conflict with somebody or whatever, and so I'm going to go and apologize to this person, and I'm going to try to make it right. But a lot of times when we do that, we expect a certain outcome. You're maybe expecting for them to apologize back, or for them to say that they were in the wrong. But you have to stop predicting the outcome and just do what you think is right. And if you continue to do that and not be so tied to the outcome or what's going to happen as a result of that, and just keep doing it because it's the right thing to do, you're going to continue to move forward. Learn to always be grateful for the things that you do have. There's a lot of, the attitude of gratitude, just really thinking about what you're grateful for each and every day. And it could be this, you could be in a place in life where it's hard to be grateful for anything. Trust me, we've all been there. But just thinking of 1, 2, 3 things, just the fact that you can get up in the morning and you can get in a car and drive to work is something to be grateful for, because there's many people who can't even do that. So being grateful for the little things makes a difference. Seize every opportunity to learn, to grow, to talk to someone who's successful in this industry. A handful of you are going to Vegas next week. There's going to be lots of things that you can learn from, and you have a choice at the end of that. You can walk away a new salesperson and say, I'm going to be different starting Monday with my career, or you could just go back to being insane and doing the same things you've always done them before. Really important, keep your sense of humor, laugh it off, enjoy life. Don't take things too seriously. Use a little bit of sarcasm, laugh things off, have a good time. That's important. Believe that you are in charge of your destiny. You are fully responsible for your success. If you own that 100%, whatever bad happens, you can own that. And you can say, this is the way that it is. It's an interesting, in the book, Good to Great, there's this thing that's called the mirror window approach. And it's kind of a character analysis. But when things go bad in your life, people have a tendency to look out the window at what is going on outside that's making my life so bad. When things are going good in our lives, we look in the mirror. I'm amazing. I've done these amazing things. Look at me. I'm awesome. But people who have good character and they reverse that. When things go good in their life, they look around them. They look outside to see what things are going on around them, the people in their lives that are making an impact. And when things go bad in their lives, they go and they stand in the mirror and they say, what can I do differently to improve my situation? And you're either a window person when it comes to bad things, or you're a mirror person when it comes to bad things. And that perspective can completely change the way that you see things. As we kind of go through this here, I'm going to work through these really fast, but motivation, I want to talk about that just a little bit. There are, in my mind, and something that I've read, that there are a few types of motivation. There's what we call fear motivation. Fear motivation motivates a lot of people. Fear is, if I don't make my car payment, they're going to come and take away my car. If I don't make my power payment, they're going to turn off my electricity. Whether it's good or bad, it's a reality. All of us are motivated by fear and doing certain things. And then there's incentive reward motivation. In a sales job, this is very important. If I do these tasks, if I do these things, I am rewarded with a sale, a commission, a bonus, recognition. But neither of those will work, fear motivation or incentive motivation, if you don't have self-motivation. You have to say, it doesn't matter if I get a reward or incentive or a bonus, because I'm going to be the best that I can do, because that's what I want for myself. So without self-motivation, those other motivators, they just won't work. There's a lot of people that know that if they don't pay their power bill, their power is going to be turned off. And guess what? Their power gets turned off because they're lacking self-motivation. So once we find our self-motivation, we can use those other things to keep us successful. And I always kind of talked about in this business that we've got to get to a point to where we can survive financially, and then we have to start running up the escalator, going a little faster, so that then we can thrive in this profession. And thriving is to be able to have more than what you need, to be able to have more income than what you need to survive. But that's all up to you. That's all in your hands. So here's the common denominator of success. I know you guys are all on pins and needles waiting for this, so here it comes. The common denominator of success, the secret of success of every person who has ever been successful, lies in the fact that the person formed the habit of doing things that others don't like to do. It's just as true as it sounds. It's just as simple as it seems. You can hold it up to the light. You can put it to the acid test. You can kick it around until it's worn out. But when you are all through with it, it will still be the common denominator of success, whether you like it or not. He goes on to say this too. It's not that successful people like to do things any more than unsuccessful people. It's just that they like to fail less. And so when it comes to prospecting, when it comes to following scripts, when it comes to doing things we need to do, and of course we can put a lot of personal things in here as well as far as your health is concerned, and people who run marathons and do triathlons and Ironmans. It's not necessarily that they like the training to get to that point. They just form the habits of doing things that others don't like to do. And our job is the exact same thing, is forming the habits of doing things that others don't like to do. We have people in this industry, and really in any sales industry, that make well above what the average person makes in the business. It's not that they like to do things any more than those other people. It's just they form the habits to do it. It's really that simple. So as you kind of think about that the secret of success of every person who's ever been successful lies in the fact that that person formed the habit of doing things that others don't like to do. And that's what sets us apart from others. And that's what, quite honestly, brings us the most amount of happiness, I believe, in life, is when we face our fears and when we do things that we know are important. We know they're good for us, but we avoid doing them because we don't like to do them. But when you can make that change, it makes a big difference. As we kind of wrap things up here, just a couple of principles for staying motivated as you start off the new year. Having a clearly defined purpose. These are things, I'm going to send this presentation out to you guys, but these are questions that I would sit down and define for yourselves. Having a clearly defined purpose. Why do I come to work? You guys, if it's about coming to work so you can make money, there is nothing wrong with that. But I think for most, there's a lot of people in the 20 plus years I've done this that have gotten into this job because they want to make a good income. But that's not enough to be willing to do the things that you don't like to do. Why do I come to work? What do I believe to be true about myself, about my career, about the people that I work for? What does your purpose drive you to succeed? Is my story just too good to keep to myself? And then having those clearly defined goals. What are you going to do today? How much will I earn by successfully fulfilling my purpose? We talked about this a few weeks back with a little, I emailed it out, but basically taking your income goal and then backing into what you have to do on a daily basis to get there. If you haven't taken the time to do that, I highly encourage you to do so. That in order to hit those income goals, you have to be willing to do the things on a daily basis to get it done. Otherwise, you're just kind of winging it. And if you wing it, you're not going to get there. So, and it comes down to another quote that I really like is, if there's something that you want to change in your life, you have to change something that you do daily. To say I'm going to do this once a month or once a week usually doesn't create the habits necessary to do it. So when you get off this call, take 10 minutes and sit down and say, this is 1, 2, 3 things that I'm going to do on a daily basis to have me reach my goal, my potential, have consistency in my production. Some of you have got very lofty goals for the year, which I applaud. I think it's incredible. We've got a lot of people that said they're going to do $1 million in business this year. That's a big goal. That's a big annual goal. But if you don't break it down to what you have to do daily to reach that goal, it's going to be very difficult at the end of the year to be there. And 1 month into it, 2 months into it, 3 months into it, you're going to realize that you're off. You're not on track to hit that goal. It's going to be discouraging. You're going to get frustrated. Then you're going to lower your goal. Well, I didn't really do it in January, so I'll start in February. I challenge you, I encourage you to start today to figure out, if it's as simple as hanging that sign up at your desk that says, set 2 appointments every day no matter what. If that's all that it takes, then do it. But that's a clearly defined goal for you to be successful. Again, back to the purpose. It's my job to help a husband and wife make the decisions they would have to make if death occurred tomorrow and record them. When people ask you what you do, and I'm sure in your inner social circles, there are those around you who are saying, so what is it that you're doing now these days, West? What kind of work do you do? A lot of times we go to the easy the easy answer, which is, oh, I work at, you know, XYZ funeral home and I sell pre-need funeral plans. That's the what, but it's not the why. As you get better at explaining your job in, you know, what I do for the funeral home is it's actually my job to help a family make the decisions they have to make if death occurred tomorrow, and then I help them record those decisions. So that way, if something unexpectedly happened tomorrow, all of those decisions would already be made and they'd be on file at the funeral home. And that alleviates their children and their spouse from a lot of heartache when that time comes. Focus on that why, and get that in your mind, that it's not, you don't sell insurance, you don't sell life insurance, you don't sell funeral plans. You help families make decisions that have to make if a death occurred tomorrow, and you help them record those decisions. So we got an obligation to do our jobs well and share our story with as many families as possible, because if we don't do our job to the absolute best of our ability, then a family will suffer. And you really got to ask yourself every day, how can I help more families alleviate this burden? If you're asking yourselves that might be another sign to put up at your desk right there, and ask yourself that question every day. How can I help more families? And really focus on the why and the purpose of what we do. As you're getting ready to set your goals, break it down, have weekly, monthly, and annual income goals. How many sales do I need daily, weekly, and monthly? How many presentations do I need? How many appointments should I set daily, weekly, monthly? How many contacts should I make daily, weekly, monthly? How many new leads do I need to generate daily, weekly, monthly? When you get down to the nitty-gritty of this job and you're willing to do these things and then set your mind to accomplish them, you'll be in the top 1% in this business. If you just come in each day and hope for someone to walk in or call in, and maybe one week it happens, the next week it doesn't, and don't really take seriously what it takes to be in the top 1% in this business, then you're going to be frustrated. You're going to be discouraged. You're going to have a month where you sell 100,000 and the next month you hardly sell anything, because you're allowing what's happening around you to dictate your success. Sure, there's going to be walk-ins, there's going to be call-ins. You guys, that's just the gravy in this business. You can't count on it. There's no guarantee for it. It's not going to happen every day. It's not going to happen every month. But if you get in that mindset at all that, man, I haven't had a walk-in for like 3 weeks. I mean, this job sucks. You're going to be in a bad place all the time, because you're looking out the window, right? When's that next person coming in? When's that next person going to call me back? Take control of that. Look in the mirror and take control of the things that you need to do daily, weekly, monthly to be able to make it happen. When your mindset changes and you take personal responsibility for these things, you're going to be happier in your job. You're going to be more fulfilled. You're going to realize that you actually do have control over what you're doing and how much money you're earning. Don't let that be in somebody else's hands. Don't give someone else the control of your income, your productivity. Take control of that. And the more control you take, the happier and more fulfilled you're going to feel in this industry. Have the attitude, I'm self-employed. This is my business. If somebody came in right now to your business, and you guys are self-employed, right? Everybody would agree with that. If somebody came in to evaluate your business because they wanted to buy it from you, or they wanted to evaluate your business, this is a little self-assessment. And think about this. Each day I generate and cultivate new selling opportunities. On a scale of 1 to 10, are you a 1 or are you a 10, or somewhere in the middle? Every day I generate and cultivate new selling opportunities. Every day I make contacts necessary to meet my revenue goals, 1 through 10. Each day I run enough presentations to meet my revenue goals. I study and educate myself regularly on sales skills and techniques, 1 through 10. I consider myself very professional and highly ethical when dealing with customers and coworkers, 1 through 10. Rate yourself. I will do whatever it takes to make my business successful, 1 through 10. That's a big one. How important is this to you? Will you do whatever it takes? Will you do things that are uncomfortable? Will you push yourself out of your comfort zone? Are you willing to do whatever it takes? If you're in a slump and you had a lousy call day, are you going to go home at 2 o'clock because you're frustrated? Or are you going to do whatever it takes to set that appointment goal? Get that in your head. Do whatever it takes. If you need to read, do whatever it takes. But so many people, you guys, so many leave this business and they're frustrated and they're discouraged, and they just weren't willing to do whatever it takes. And so they give up. And we don't want to see any of you experience that. Just have that attitude. I'm going to do whatever it takes. Because there's someone out there right now that's closed a deal that you can't close. There's someone that's set an appointment with someone that you haven't been able to set an appointment with. And you got to be willing to look in the mirror and say, what can I do differently to find the success that I have? So if at the end of that you're done, your company is now up for sale, that's you, your business, that's West Folger LLC. After I do that evaluation, would you invest in your own company? Would you buy stock? Would you convince others to buy stock? What would your presentation look like on Wall Street? If I was evaluating me as an individual, as a business, could I say, I've done everything I can to build this business and now I want you to buy it? Those people who are most successful in life are willing to do whatever it takes, and they could explain very, very clear, in very clear words, what they do every single day to be able to be successful in this industry. So let's kind of wrap this up. Let's just assume that you've got clearly defined purpose, that you have your goals, they're clearly defined. You're willing to now do whatever it takes to be successful. You take time every day, 20 or 30 minutes, to study on topics of self-improvement, sales skills, goal setting, motivation, and you've decided to take complete responsibility for your success. If you're willing to do those 4 things, success is right in front of you. I can promise you that. And really, at the end of the day, you gotta get to work. You gotta go to work, but just be willing to make some changes this year, you guys. If you struggled, if your sales have been inconsistent month to month, look in the mirror and figure out what you can do to be able to make it successful. But I would start with your purpose, and then I would start, why are you doing what you're doing? Like, really, like, what is going to motivate you to do whatever it takes? And then once you've defined that, then you got to define what you're going to do every day to make it happen. If you take the time to do that, and then you hold yourself accountable to that level of success, you guys are going to have a phenomenal decade, a phenomenal year. It's 2020, and we want everyone to experience what it's like to take complete control of their success and to have the best year that they've ever had. If your goal is to make $100,000 this year, don't just say it, write it down, break it down to what you've got to do on a daily basis to make it happen, and you will be so much more capable of reaching that goal than you could have ever imagined if you just take the time to write it down. Okay, you guys, that wraps us up. We are just about 2 hours in. It worked out great. I'm going to put you on the spot for just a second, but was there anything that you heard during that presentation that particularly stood out to you? Is this where I need to look in the mirror or the window? Or are you all muted? Or maybe up. Oh, there we go. Hey, Nick, go for it, bud.
So one of the things that stood out to me, which I missed the first half of it, but the Slumps motivators, what I took a snippet of it and named it that, talking about the purpose and not the production, because I've had 2 months of a slump, and I think we've been talking about production a lot and not why I'm doing this. So that was good for me.
Absolutely, Nick. I think that's great. Sometimes when you get in that slump, you're kind of focused on where your next sale is going to come from, as opposed to looking for your next appointment. Which obviously is a result of sales. But when you get to that point, you just kind of start. I've been there, man. You start digging through your leads and like, okay, I got to have a sell. I got to have a sell tomorrow. As opposed to saying, I just need a family that's willing to listen, and focusing on the why of that is going to make a big difference. So, that will sometimes it's hard when you're struggling and you haven't had a sell for a little while or not at the income level that you want to be. It's hard to get your mind off of that fact that, man, I could really use a good sell right now because I need the money. But folks, I could really use an appointment right now because I have another family that I need to help. But it does change your mindset for sure.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts? All right, you guys, we're at 2 o'clock. We're going to wrap it up. I'm going to send you guys all out this presentation. I encourage you to go back through it. Go through, take that little evaluation, figure out what your goals are going to be, answer some of those questions about what your purpose is here in this industry. If you take the time to do this, it's not easy. Sometimes some people look at this stuff as kind of being a little bit kind of cheesy or whatever. I get it, but I can promise you that anybody that's ever been uber successful in anything takes the time to really iron out and to finalize and to put in finite details exactly what they're going to do to be successful. So you guys, thanks so much for your time today. I hope this was helpful to you. Some of you are going to walk away motivated. Some of you are going to walk away discouraged. But at the same time, just understand that we are here to help you in any way that we can. If you've identified a few areas where you said, what, I could really use some help with this, I'm not sure where to start, please reach out to us. We are happy to help. Your managers are happy to help. The team is happy to help. So we'd love to be able to help you wherever we can to get where you want to be. You guys take care. Have a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.